Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, today I want to discuss a theory that was kind of popular in the Boruto community. Well, not too popular, but a lot of people do kind of bring this up as like a side comment. I kind of did want to go a little bit more in depth about this idea and kind of explain where people are coming from. To be honest, I'm actually really intrigued about this theory. This right here may actually happen. I think this right here has to be one of the more realistic theories that could potentially be uncovered later on in the future of Boruto, especially now seeing that Momoshiki's plan, if this was his plan, is probably coming to an end for the manga readers. But I will be talking about some spoilers, but regardless, let's get into the actual theory. So the overall idea is that Momoshiki chose to actually die and actually give Boruto his karma seal. Now this right here originally stemmed from the idea that the way that a person gets his karma seal is by killing an Otsutsuki member, which we now know isn't necessarily the full way that you actually do get the karma seal, but back then that's what we thought. And also Momoshiki won Boruto's Jogen. What we didn't understand is that Momoshiki seen that Boruto had his Jogen, and after that Momoshiki could have possibly tanked the whole entire fight just to have the possibility of getting a Jogen, which again stems on the theory that we still kind of do have, that the Jogen could potentially be the strongest dojutsu of all time, because when we did actually get to see the Otsutsuki God, Ishiki Otsutsuki envisioned the Otsutsuki God with two Jogens, and in the background there were just a plethora of Jogen. Now of course, as I just said, the one major flaw about this theory would be the fact that, hey, you don't get the karma seal from just simply killing an Otsutsuki member, and on top of that, an Otsutsuki member can actually give you a karma seal while still being alive. Now here's why that's wrong, and the original logic is still kind of correct. Let's say hypothetically if Momoshiki gave Boruto a karma seal and did not actually choose to die, Momoshiki would then have absolutely no control over Boruto, whereas the way that Momoshiki did actually do it, Momoshiki paid attention to Boruto's actual well-being. We've seen multiple times when Boruto was in a near-death experience and Momoshiki literally just took over and healed Boruto. This happened versus Boro, this happened versus Ishiki Otsutsuki. Not only that, this also happened in the situation most recently in the manga, even though Boruto wasn't necessarily fully injured, but it's still a kind of security for Momoshiki to have over his actual vessel. Whereas Ishiki Otsutsuki's relationship with Kawaki could have literally died and Ishiki Otsutsuki would have been absolutely pissed off. Momoshiki isn't necessarily fully in the dark, though I do have to point out, Ishiki Otsutsuki with Kawaki, he did have the ability to do like an instant transmission to go exactly to where Kawaki is, so he himself won't actually lose Kawaki, but Momoshiki still has the advantage of understanding exactly what particular situation that his vessel is in 100% of the time. And I think that right there could possibly be the reason why Momoshiki would then opt to die and then implant the karma seal into Boruto, and not necessarily do it the way that Ishiki Otsutsuki would want to do it, because Boruto in this idea wouldn't necessarily be a regular vessel. He'd be a vessel with a very unique dojutsu that Momoshiki in theory would want to protect. And also some people do believe that once Momoshiki Otsutsuki actually did see Boruto's Jogen, he stopped trying to kill Boruto altogether. And I personally believe that if this theory was actually legit, that would be the case, but some people do believe it happened even before that. Some people point to the fact that Momoshiki Otsutsuki was actually trying to kill Naruto, Sasuke, and the rest of the Kage, and also in the line of fire, nowhere to be seen, was Boruto. Boruto was somewhere completely different, and Momoshiki even seen Boruto and acknowledged that he's seen Boruto, and in fact Momoshiki's own goals completely shifted. Remind you guys, he wanted to get the Nine Tails from Naruto, but in the manga, right before he would have actually blasted off his attack, Momoshiki Otsutsuki actually said die, which essentially means that Momoshiki Otsutsuki would be completely abandoning his entire goal altogether just for his personal goals, which would just be to obtain the Jogen from Boruto. Now I know some people would probably ask, why would Momoshiki go through all of this trouble just to get a Jogen when he could just pluck Boruto's eye right out of his eye socket, just like how Madara plucked Kakashi's Sharingan out of his eye socket? The Jogen in itself is very different, so we don't necessarily know exactly what its properties are. And even after 13-14 years, Boruto himself even still doesn't even really know how to activate the Jogen. So the Jogen itself could possibly have some completely different rules to it, whereas if you actually do snatch out Boruto's Jogen, the Jogen could possibly just be gone. It could possibly just be Boruto's regular blue eye that Momoshiki would be implanting into himself. So of course, to actually transition this whole entire thing correctly, he may actually need to make Boruto his vessel to potentially get the strongest dojutsu of all time. And honestly, I think obtaining a strong dojutsu would definitely warrant the trade-off of possibly being dead for, I don't know, 1 to 2 years for the karma seal to be fully evolved. I think that right there is definitely possible. Now, if you guys were to actually ask me legitimately, do I think that Momoshiki chose to die just to get the Jogen? I'm gonna probably say no, and I'm gonna say no for a couple of reasons. I think one, it's not necessarily Momoshiki's character to go against the Otsutsuki clan. We understand that Momoshiki Otsutsuki, he was doing the things that he was doing for the Otsutsuki clan. Even if hypothetically he did get the chakra fruit from the actual planet, he may have not actually eaten the chakra fruit himself. It's very possible that his mission was to actually just retrieve the chakra fruit and bring it back to the Otsutsuki clan. One of the things that we did see earlier on in the series is that Momoshiki, when he was talking to Sasuke, he was essentially laying down some foundations upon what Kaguya was and was not supposed to do. And because Kaguya didn't do that, Momoshiki himself tried to pull up on Kaguya, essentially meaning that Momoshiki had a problem with Kaguya not necessarily following the Otsutsuki's orders, essentially meaning that Momoshiki's also potentially following the orders as well. But I don't know, I just go back and forth with stuff like this, because like hypothetically, like even if that was the case, I don't know, I'm doing this live in a video, I usually do this in my podcast, but even if that was the case, Momoshiki would essentially not try to kill a character like Naruto, because again, Naruto was very crucial to building a Ten Tails, which would then build a chakra fruit so he could then carry back to the Otsutsuki clan. He already was like, yo, all right, bump this, I'm killing Naruto because I can't necessarily take him alive. And then he probably thought, hey, I'll probably get the Jogan afterwards. So I don't really know, but I'm still gonna say, hey, this idea, in my personal opinion, it's probably just too far out there, but I will definitely say I will not be surprised if this right here actually did happen, if this right here was the actual motivation behind Momoshiki losing that battle, because a lot of people do believe that Momoshiki was still kind of holding back a little bit, even though it was a life or death situation. Some people even bring up the fact that Momoshiki used a Rasengan that he doesn't even normally use to combat an attack that could have well possibly actually killed him, and later on it really did kill Momoshiki. But let me know what you guys think about this theory in the comment section below. I personally do think that this idea is very interesting. Again, as I said earlier in the video, it's something that I would not be surprised if it actually is happening. But it's me, your boy Barbie, and we out.
It's a knife.